Brothers and sisters, from the moment you were born, you arrived with everything you needed. Not one thing was missing. You were whole, complete in body, in mind, and in spirit. But somewhere along the way, the world taught you to forget this. You were told you're not enough. You were made to believe that something is missing, that you must become something more, do more, prove more, in order to matter. These voices were loud, and slowly you started giving pieces of yourself away. Piece by piece, you traded your inner power for approval, for comfort, for fear of judgment. Today, I invite you to wake up, take that power back, reclaim the strength that was always yours, look into a mirror not to seek validation, but to remember. Remember that before the world labeled you, before you took on the roles of employee, student, parent, friend, you were already enough. You were born with breath, with will, with light, and none of that came from outside. Master Shi Heng Yi teaches us that the warrior's path is not about gaining more, but about letting go of illusions, letting go of fear, letting go of the belief that you are lacking. From the very first breath you took, you arrived in this world whole. Not lacking, not broken, not missing anything. As an infant, you didn't need anyone to tell you your worth. You simply existed, and that existence was enough. You had instincts, emotions, awareness, and the raw potential for growth. You didn't come into the world seeking approval. You cried when you needed something. You laughed when something delighted you. You stretched, breathed, explored, all without shame or guilt. This completeness isn't just physical, it's also spiritual and mental. Your body was wired with intelligence. The heart knew how to beat, the lungs knew how to breathe, the eyes knew how to blink. Your soul was pure and untouched by the expectations of the world. Your mind was open, curious, unburdened by fear, doubt, or judgment. In this original state, there was no concept of not being good enough, because comparison didn't exist. There was no measuring stick, no pressure to become anything else you already were. This truth is often lost as we grow older. Society starts whispering or even shouting that you must be better, faster, smarter, more beautiful. You begin to adopt these voices as your own, slowly forgetting that you were born with everything essential. But make no mistake, your original self, untouched by noise and expectation, still lives within you. Completeness isn't something you need to earn. It's something you need to remember. You came into this world as a masterpiece, not a project. Before you spoke a word or made a single decision, you were already enough. As you move through life, the world often unconsciously begins to shape your beliefs about yourself. It doesn't happen all at once. It starts subtly, a look from someone when you speak your truth, a comment from a teacher, a comparison made by a parent, a rejection from a peer. Over time, these small messages begin to accumulate. You internalize them, often without realizing it, and slowly, like dust gathering on a mirror, they start to obscure your original clarity. Society is built on systems of comparison, competition, and conformity. You're taught to look outward for validation. You're told what success is supposed to look like. You're measured against grades, titles, wealth, appearance, followers, achievements, and when you don't match those external standards, you start to feel like something's missing in you. The child who once ran freely, laughed loudly, and believed in their own imagination begins to hesitate, begins to question, begins to doubt. You might hear voices in your mind that say, "You're not smart enough, you're not attractive enough, you're not strong enough." But here's the truth. Those voices aren't yours. They were planted, they were learned, they were inherited. And the tragedy is not just that you heard them, it's that over time, you began to believe them. This is how the world conditions you. It teaches you to measure your worth by external markers instead of internal truth. It teaches you to suppress your intuition, your creativity, and your authenticity in exchange for acceptance or security. You start chasing approval, mistaking it for love. You start hiding your flaws, mistaking it for strength. You start pretending, mistaking it for growth, but none of this reflects who you truly are. The conditioning of the world is a veil, and behind that veil still lives the complete, powerful being you were at birth. But to see it again, to reconnect with it, you must become aware of the layers the world has placed on you. You must realize that forgetting your worth was never your failure, it was a learned survival. What if I told you that the greatest losses in life are not taken from you, they are given away? That the power you feel you've lost didn't vanish, it was handed over, piece by piece, often in exchange for things that seemed necessary at the time: approval, comfort, security, or acceptance. This is one of the hardest truths to face, but also one of the most liberating. Your power is not stolen, it is surrendered. You see, as children, we begin life boldly. We express emotions honestly. We speak our thoughts without fear, but then we are taught directly or indirectly that some parts of us are too much, not enough, or unacceptable. In an effort to be loved or to belong, we start giving up parts of ourselves. We shrink our voice to avoid judgment. We silence our creativity to seem normal. We numb our emotions to appear strong. And in each of these moments, we trade authenticity for safety. That's how it begins: small compromises that become a pattern. And with every compromise, you unknowingly hand over a little more of your inner power. You stop trusting your instincts and start second-guessing everything. You stop taking bold action and start seeking permission. You stop living from your truth and start performing for approval. And slowly, you begin to feel disconnected from yourself, like a stranger in your own skin. But the truth is that disconnection is not your natural state. It is the result of choices made under pressure, fear, or conditioning. And while those choices may have once helped you survive, they now keep you stuck. When you realize that your power was given away, not taken, something incredible happens. You start to see that what was lost can also be reclaimed. You start to understand that you are not powerless, you are simply out of practice in remembering how powerful you are. Power is not found in force or dominance. True power is quiet, steady, and internal. It's the ability to stand in your truth even when it's uncomfortable. It's the courage to say no when everything around you demands a yes. It's the strength to be fully yourself without apology. But that kind of power requires ownership, and ownership begins with this realization: you are the gatekeeper of your energy, your mind, your choices. The moment you stop outsourcing your worth and seeking yourself in others is the moment you begin to take your power back. When you've wandered far from yourself, buried under layers of expectations, fear, and self-doubt, the only true way home is through self-awareness. It is the doorway, the compass, the light in the fog. Without it, you're simply reacting to life, chasing validation, avoiding discomfort, and wondering why you feel disconnected or unfulfilled. But with it, everything changes. Self-awareness is not just knowing your name, your habits, or your preferences. It goes far deeper than surface-level identity. It's the ability to pause and observe yourself without judgment, to witness your thoughts as they arise, to feel your emotions fully without being consumed by them, to question your reactions, your patterns, your beliefs, especially the ones that were passed down to you unconsciously. Most people live on autopilot. They wake up, scroll through their phones, go through the motions of the day, react to situations, seek distraction, and fall asleep, all without ever pausing to ask, why do I do what I do? Why do I feel this way? Is this who I really am? But self-awareness is the disruption of that cycle. It is the gentle but firm voice inside that says, wait, let's go deeper. Let's look within. And this is precisely what Master Shi Heng Yi emphasizes. The path of the inner warrior is not about chasing something outside of yourself. but about courageously turning inward to remember your own essence. It's not always comfortable. In fact, self-awareness often requires you to face uncomfortable truths. You may uncover wounds you've avoided, beliefs that limit you, or behaviors that no longer serve you. But this discomfort is not punishment, it is the beginning of transformation. When you cultivate self-awareness, you begin to see the difference between who you truly are and who you've been taught to be. You realize that your worth does not depend on your productivity, your appearance, or your achievements. You understand that emotions like fear or anger are not signs of weakness, but invitations to grow. You learn that you are not your thoughts, you are the awareness behind them. And in that awareness, there is immense power. Because once you can see yourself clearly, you are no longer controlled by unconscious forces. You begin to make intentional choices rather than habitual ones. You begin to respond rather than react. You begin to align your actions with your values, not your fears. Self-awareness doesn't give you all the answers at once, but it gives you the space to ask the right questions. It reconnects you with your inner truth, the part of you that was never broken, never lost, never incomplete. And the more you return to that space, the more you reclaim your original wholeness. In a world obsessed with achievement, accumulation, and self-improvement, we're constantly told that we need to add more in order to become more skills, more knowledge, more productivity, more recognition, more possessions. But what if the true path to power and peace doesn't lie in adding anything at all, but in letting go? Master Shi Heng Yi teaches that real growth is not about layering more onto ourselves, but about peeling away what no longer serves us. It's about removing the masks, the fears, the false identities we've accumulated over time. We are not empty beings who must fill ourselves to become whole. We are already whole, but buried beneath layers of illusion, ego, and distraction. Think of a sculptor standing before a block of marble. The masterpiece is already inside. It's not created by adding, but by removing everything that isn't part of the final form. In the same way, your true self, your clarity, your purpose, your power is already within you. The work is not to build it, but to uncover it. Letting go requires a deep level of inner work. It means questioning long-held beliefs. Do I really need others' approval to feel worthy? Is this fear protecting me or keeping me small? Whose voice is telling me I'm not enough, and is it even mine? And then, with honesty and courage, it means choosing to release what weighs you down, the self-doubt, the resentment, the perfectionism, the endless need to prove something. These are not sources of strength, they are chains, and no amount of adding will set you free while you are still bound by them. Letting go is not about giving up. It's not passive. In fact, it is one of the most active and powerful practices you can commit to, because it demands awareness, discipline, and the willingness to step into discomfort. It's easier to keep collecting achievements, praise, distractions than it is to face your shadows and release the lies you've believed about yourself. But with each thing you release, you make space for stillness, space for clarity, space for the authentic version of yourself to breathe again. You start to remember that you are not the roles you play or the things you own. You are not the mistakes you've made or the praise you've received. You are something deeper, and that truth becomes louder the more you strip away the noise. This is the paradox. The less you carry, the stronger you become. The more you let go, the more of yourself you find. True power comes not from the weight of everything you've gathered, but from the freedom of everything you've released. In a world that never stops talking, the rarest and most powerful act is to be still. Not just physically still, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually silent. Inner silence isn't the absence of sound, it's the quieting of the endless noise inside the overthinking, the worrying, the planning, the self-judgment, the voices from the past, and the fears about the future. Most people spend their entire lives reacting to the outer world, to deadlines, conversations, expectations, problems, and distractions. Their attention is constantly being pulled outward, and in that outward focus, they lose connection with the only place where truth resides within. The inner world, your internal landscape, is the source of all clarity, strength, and wisdom. But to access it, you must first learn to be quiet enough to hear it. Master Shi Heng Yi often teaches that without silence, the mind becomes chaotic. A restless mind is like a stormy ocean. You can't see clearly beneath the surface. But when the waters become still, even just for a moment, what lies beneath reveals itself. Your intuition, your values, your sense of direction, your deeper truth. Inner silence is not easy. The moment you sit in stillness, everything you've suppressed tends to rise. Old wounds, insecurities, anxieties, they all surface, not to torment you, but to be seen, understood, and released. This is why so many avoid silence. It's uncomfortable. It strips away distractions. It forces you to face yourself. But that is also why it's so transformative, because on the other side of that discomfort is clarity. Peace, awareness, truth. When you cultivate silence through breath, meditation, reflection, or simply slowing down, you begin to notice how loud your mind has been. You become aware of the constant mental chatter that has gone unchecked. And with that awareness, you begin to separate yourself from it. You begin to realize, I am not these thoughts. I am the one witnessing them. That realization alone is profound. It creates space between your consciousness and the mental noise. And in that space, you find choice. You begin to respond rather than react. You begin to act from purpose rather than pressure. You begin to live from truth rather than fear. Silence is also where healing begins. It is in the quiet moments that the body can release tension, the heart can process emotions, and the soul can speak. You don't need external answers when you've cultivated the inner stillness to hear your own. The voice of truth is always there, but it whispers, and you must be silent enough to listen. No matter what you've been through, the pain, the loss, the rejection, the trauma, the mistakes, you have never been broken. It may feel like you're broken. It may seem like life has chipped away at your soul, that parts of you have been lost forever. But beneath every scar, every layer of doubt and confusion, there remains a truth that cannot be touched by circumstances. You are still whole. This is not just a comforting idea, it is a powerful reality. Wholeness is your original state. It is not something you earn. It is not something someone else can give you, and it is certainly not something the world can take away. It is the part of you that existed before the world told you who you should be, before the fear, before the disappointment, before the conditioning. That part of you, the core, remains intact, no matter how chaotic life becomes on the surface. But here's the challenge: when we experience hardship, we often internalize it. We start to believe that pain equals brokenness, that being misunderstood means we're flawed, that failing means we're defective. And from this belief, we start living small. We stop trusting ourselves. We look to others to complete us, to fix us, to validate our worth. We forget that nothing outside can complete what is already complete within. It's important to understand that wholeness doesn't mean perfection. Being whole doesn't mean you never get sad, never feel lost, never struggle. It means you are capable of embracing every part of yourself, the strong and the soft, the healed and the hurting, the light and the shadow, without rejecting any of it. Wholeness is not found in avoiding pain, but in allowing space for all of your experience without losing your center. Even if you've made mistakes, even if you've strayed far from who you wanted to be, even if you've been hurt deeply, you are not damaged goods. Your essence remains untouched. Like the sky behind the clouds, your true self is always there, waiting to be seen again. The clouds may come and go, but the sky never disappears. To recognize your wholeness is to reclaim your identity from a world that profits off your insecurity. It is to say, I may have been wounded, but I am not broken. I may have fallen, but I have not lost myself. It is to stop chasing wholeness through external achievements or relationships and to begin rooting yourself in the truth that who you are, as you are, is already enough. This remembering is powerful. Because when you know you are whole, you begin to live differently. You stop searching for completeness in others. You stop trying to prove your worth. You start acting from love, not lack. You begin to heal not because you are broken, but because you are finally connected again to what has always been there, your unshakable, untouchable wholeness. So now, the invitation is simple, but not easy. Remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Strip away the noise, let go of what you've been carrying, sit in the silence, reconnect with your center, because everything you're searching for, peace, clarity, strength, worth, is not out there. It never was. It's already within you. It has always been. You were complete at birth, and every moment is a chance to take that power back, not by becoming someone else, but by returning to who you truly are.